Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today's guest is Ian Fee. Ian is a successful author, entrepreneur, and creator of Make It Great. Oddly sober since 2017, he has dedicated himself to personal growth, family, and living a life of purpose and clarity. His journey from addiction to empowerment has become his mission to help others trapped in the same cycle of self-destruction break free and embark on their own transformative path to health, passion, and a renewed mindset. Through his book, Wild Ride to Sobriety, Ian aims to inspire others to overcome their struggles and embrace a life of balance, success, and fulfillment. Well, I cannot wait to have a chat to you today, Ian. Welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for making the time to join us here today. I know our audience is going to get a lot of value from having this conversation. So let's dive right in. I'd love for our audience to get to know you a bit better, Ian. Can we start with where do you live? What does an average day look like for you? And tell me, what do you do for fun?
Home is beautiful Seattle, Washington, on the beautiful West Coast. I love to snowboard, golf, hang out with my kids, bike, hike. Fitness is a big thing for me. And my big boy job is I'm in the finance and insurance space.
I love that, my big boy job. So what does an average day look like then?
An average day is I'm a super early riser. So I'm up super early. I don't look at my phone for at least a half hour. I go outside, do some breath work, I journal, make some tea or coffee, and then I'm off to the gym for a little bit, about an hour, and then I'm hitting the streets, banging on doors, trying to sell finance and insurance.
I love it. So tell me, have you always been an early morning person, or is this a sobriety thing?
Definitely a sobriety thing because I'd be so hungover. Mornings were not my friend.
Same. I used to dread the mornings. I think I would kind of come to life by about midday after I'd had enough coffee and enough ibuprofen to knock the headache.
For sure. Yep, it's
Yeah.
definitely a sober thing.
And tell me, I'm really curious to know because this is actually something I've only implemented since the 1st of January this year. Phone free for the first 30 minutes of the day. Tell me what inspired you to make that change and what have you noticed?
It was a podcast I was listening to, maybe in Ed Milet or one of his books, The Power of One More. And it was about just setting the tone for your day.
Wow.
And again, I stacked all these baby habits. I just didn't come out of the gate and start doing all this stuff. But one of the things was like no phone. And it made complete sense to me because when you look at your phone, you instantly have to react, right? Whether it be an email, a text, even if you're scrolling on social media, typically there's nothing good, but you want to react and it just gets your mind going in the wrong direction. So for me, it was like getting my mind right before I
Mm.
start my day.
Totally. I agree. As you were saying that, it's the mind, but also it's almost, I think, if especially social media, it jacks your nervous system. Like it's designed to elicit that fight or flight response. And I just think about even this morning, actually, when I did pick up my phone, I opened social media and a really well-known person passed away overnight. And it was really sad because she was young and I straight away, I just had this wave of like, and that's okay. You're going to receive information throughout the day that might impact you one way or another. But it's just interesting that from the moment I chose to pick up my phone, I had all of this external noise coming internally, and that is naturally going to then create some sort of change within your nervous system and your ability to then face the day. So I just completely agree that having that, especially that first 30 minutes of the day, just to come back to your body, your breath, like you said, it really sets you up for success. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Okay, now let's talk about what do you do for fun? You mentioned you got a couple of kids. What does that look like?
Yep. I got 3 kids. I got a grandbaby, another one on the way. Yeah, so family's super important to me. Some of my hobbies, I love golf is a fun thing, winter sports, snowboarding, wake surfing. I'm super outdoorsy, mountain biking, hiking. I love anything outdoors.
I love that. So tell me, do you get snow in Seattle or do you have to travel to ski or snowboard?
You got to go up the mountains. It's only maybe an hour, 15 minutes from
Oh,
Seattle.
wow.
Very rare we get snow, which we got a little bit this year, but it doesn't stick around very long.
Amazing. What a life. Were you into all of those sports when you were drinking, or is that something that you've kind of lent into now?
No, no, I thought booze was my superpower. So if I could get people out on a golf course and do shots, and so sports and activities have always kind of been a circle for me. They're just booze free now.
Yeah. And was it hard going back into those old environments as a newly sober person?
At first for a hot second, because you always have that peer pressure of like, hey, come on, have a drink. Why aren't you drinking? What's wrong? There's always something wrong when you don't drink. But I'm just such a strong mindset and big energy and an influence that it just really didn't bother me. And I could drink soda water, so it looks like it's vodka soda.
Yeah.
So it really didn't bother me all that much. I got used to it real fast.
I think for me, it took about 2 years. I found the first couple of years, I mean, the first year I got sober was 2020, so it was COVID. So there wasn't a lot of temptation, which I actually found to be quite a blessing. I didn't have to go to any weddings and stay sober or any big birthday parties. I was kind of just at home. But that second year of kind of stepping back out into the world, I found it a little challenging. It wasn't even so much that I wanted to drink alcohol, but I kind of was like you said, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know what to drink. I was just a kind of a little bit awkward at the start, but you get over it. Yeah, exactly. My goodness. But it does pass. For anyone listening that's in those early days, it gets easier, I promise you.
It gets easier every day.
That's it. All right, Ian, I want to go straight to your photo now. I've asked you to bring in a photo today from a time in your life where you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version externally, but internally it was a different story. Could you please describe for our listeners the photo that I'm bringing up on the screen right now? What are we looking at here? And what
I
was
believe
truly going on for you at that time in your life?
Oh my. I believe that was the one in 2016. I
Mm,
was 85 pounds heavier, drunk, sad, lonely, bad, all those feelings. And I just sold my company for, a lot of money. And it was just unbelievably depressing for me. I mean, I went into kind of a tailspin for maybe a good month, 3 weeks. It was just miserable. And it's supposed to be the happiest time of your life. And I just had this total armor on me and all this internal mess. It was
mm.
probably one of the worst feelings I've had ever, was that photo.
And do you think that the feeling of emptiness was because you'd been working so hard towards a peak, this moment of I've sold my business, I can retire now, or whatever the thoughts were in your mind, and not having that feeling and thinking, what's wrong with me? Is this it?
That's exactly what it was. It was like, I didn't enjoy the journey. And I have a whole new appreciation for that of 8 years, almost nine, being sober. Of I didn't enjoy the journey. I had a goal, make a lot of money, build a business, and have these blinders on. And again, I thought booze was my superpower. So I had all this numbing going on. So, I didn't feel any feelings because I got at the end of the goal, and then it was kind of like, well, my purpose is gone. Like, what's next? And I got super
Mm.
depressed and even more sad and more mad and more tears. And yeah, it was a horrible time.
So, were you the kind of person that you think your identity was wrapped up in the person you were as a businessman, as a business owner?
For sure. I was the partier, I was the entertainer, and boy, it wasn't a couple days a week. It would be 5, 6 days a week, from martini lunches to happy hours to casinos to strip clubs to whatever it was to go entertain clients. And it
Mm.
was all centered around booze. And then, after that, it'd be like, hey, why don't we go back to my house and have some wine and sit in the hot tub till midnight and then order wasted calories of pizza and then rinse and repeat and feel like complete ass the next morning to
Yeah.
go do it again.
Yeah, that cycle. Oh my goodness. What do you think, or do you know, people were thinking from the outside looking in? This idea of, I know for me, I was working for a Fortune 500 company, flying all around the world. Like from the outside looking in, I looked like I had it all together. But the same behaviors you just described, I was doing the exact same thing, drinking all the time whenever I could. Just internally, I hated myself. But externally, it was like, put on the smile, put on the lipstick, off we go.
Yep. Same deal as like the perception of like, oh, look, he's got nice house, nice cars, and he's always out drinking and partying, and he's going to all these cool places and these events here and these events there, and was suited up for some function on a Tuesday. And like on the outside, it was like, oh my gosh, look at him. But boy, did people not know when I looked in the mirror of how sad and lonely I was.
Hmm. What about your family at this time? What were they did they kind of know what was going on?
Yeah, yeah. I actually had my kids write stories in my book of like what kind of dad did they have. And my middle daughter was like, I didn't know if I had a happy dad, sad dad, mad dad, drunk dad, mean dad. Is there 20 people behind him and we're gonna have another party at the house on a Wednesday? Yeah, it was probably, well, not probably, it was very confusing for my kids. But I was also, again, I thought I was this perfect angel dad because I was the party dad. So all the
Mm,
teenagers and the college kids would come over and we drink and we do fireball and we do tequila and be partying and playing games in the backyard and sitting in the hot tub. And I'm like this magical dad, even though I wasn't.
It's really interesting, Ian. My dad is actually also in recovery, and the what you've just described there was very much my childhood growing up. And my dad was drinking while I was growing up and in my teenage years. And yeah, he was very much this vivacious life of the party. He still is in many ways. He just doesn't drink alcohol anymore. And I think for me, what it was great to have this fun loving dad who was really excitable and loved my friends. But what I was really craving was the presence and the connection, because I think you and I both know that the minute you put alcohol into your system, there is a part of you that is no longer present. There is this almost like this hazy disconnect, or like you mentioned, the armor that creates this inability for you to truly connect with another human being. Is that what you felt or what you
Yeah,
experienced, do you think?
I thought I was this present dad, and that term has so much different meaning today for me. Because I'd be the dad. My kids were very good athletes in sports, and I had this RV, which was really a party bus and a bar for me. But we would go to these games and double headers and triple headers, and I would make sure everybody in the stands in the morning had their Baileys and coffee, and then in the afternoon I'd make sure they had vodka sodas or a beer, and then we'd between games go do fireball shots and make hot dogs for everybody. While I'm making sure everybody else is in the stands are doing great, my kids are playing behind me. So even though at that time, in my drunken fog, I thought I was this present dad, boy, was I wrong when I got sober. I was so unpresent. I was there, but I wasn't there.
Oh my goodness, I completely know that feeling. And it's kind of crazy. I don't know, unless you've been in that place where you've had that level of disconnect and then all of a sudden you get sober and then you feel what real connection feels like. I don't know how to describe it to normies, like to people who didn't have a problem with alcohol. Like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like this feeling of really connecting with another human being and being present and just, oh, there's nothing better. I think that's kind of that was the feeling that I was looking for in the bottle, I think.
Well, we were just numbing it with we were numbing our feelings and our emotions and our happiness and our sadness. We would just drink through whatever feeling we had. We're like, ooh, I'm not sure I like this, so I'm just going to drink right through it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. And you almost just move through life not experiencing. I often describe it as it was like I went from living in black and white to turning on the color. It's like,
Yep.
my God, life is amazing. This is so cool.
Yeah, I say the same thing, like driving down the fast lane with the emergency brake on in the fog. And now there's
Yes.
no emergency brake. It's a beautiful, clear day, and everything's great.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that description. So, Ian, I mean, you started drinking at an exceptionally young age. I'm going to say this is the earliest I've ever heard in over 160 plus episodes. Your story is going to take the cake in terms of how early it was that you started drinking. So, could you please share that with our listeners now? When did you start drinking alcohol? What did it look like, and what impact did that have on your childhood?
Well, mine started in one of those little circle little bouncy houses that you put a 1-year-old in, and we're outside, and my dad, there's a picture of it in my book, I'm not sure I sent it to you, and he's giving me a Coors beer at the age of 1. And probably in my generation, in the 70s, 80s, it was like acceptable. You ran around in a car with the windows rolled up and people smoking and, the cocktail between your legs and no seat belts. And age 1 is when it started. At age of 13, I was working in a bar, doing dishes and pouring beer at the age of 13. And then my parents were very social and loved parties and potlucks. And me and my friends from high school, we would dress up and look like little maitre d's and around my parents' parties and look all cute with the little napkin over our sleeve and making drinks for my parents' friends so we could make tips. So I was just
Wow.
constantly around it. I really wasn't a big drinker in high school, a beer or two here. But man, as soon as I hit college, it was let's go. It was full throttle, and booze was my superpower.
I've often heard that they say our emotional intelligence or our EQ becomes stunted from that first drink or particularly that first blackout. So I want to know when do you remember blacking out for the first time, and do you think that impacted your emotional development in some way?
Yeah, right when you said that, it's a trigger for me. I was a really good athlete in high school, and I saved up all this money for these $200. It was like $210 back then for a pair of Air Jordans that I saved forever. And came back up to Seattle, and I was visiting my old brother, and I think I was 16 and a half, maybe 17. And we went to one of his buddies' colleges, and I'm drinking and partying, and then we're walking home. And this is going to get gross, but I threw up on the sidewalk. between my legs, and I ruined my shoes, and I was
Oh,
so
no.
pissed. I was so pissed. And then I remember going home, passing out on this couch, and the next morning I'm looking at my shoes like, all these months of effort for that. I was so mad,
That's
and I felt horrible.
devastating.
Yeah, it was. I can chuckle at it now, but it was not fun at that time for sure. And I think that was my first ever real hangover, and I was like, I
Oof.
wasted so many prayers of like, "Oh my God, please just make me feel better, and now I'll do anything. I won't drink again."
Yeah, and then we become such quick forgetters, don't we? It's like, "Oh,
Boy, we
no."
get amnesia real quick.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned that it was college, that's when things really started to take off in terms of your drinking. I know for me, it was a progression of about I mean, I was drinking from to blackout from age 12, 13, but it was a slow progression for the next decade, and then in my 20s, it was just like, I was off. What did that look like for you? Was there a progressive nature to how this played out for you as well?
It got pretty accelerated real fast. It was always something to, if you had a good day, let's go celebrate. If we had a bad day, let's go drink. Hey, we're going to the beach. Let's go drink. Hey,
Mm,
we're going to have a bonfire. Let's go drink. Everything in my world evolved around booze. Everything. Hey, let's go
wow.
do this. Let's make sure we got a cooler full of booze. Let's make sure we got vodka and ice and mixers. Like everything evolved around booze socially. And it was easy to get people like, hey, we're going to the bar after work. Of course we are. Hey, we're going to go play pool after work. Of course there's drinking. Hey, let's go bowling. Of course there's drinking. Let's go get pictures. Everything evolved around alcohol.
Yeah. Just makes it even more incredible that you're sober now because I think about how much, and I was the same, how much my identity was wrapped up in being the social one, being the party girl, being the fun, I was the person you called if you wanted to have a great time. Well, up until a point, and then I was kind of just a bit of a menace to go out with. I'd leave all my friends. I'd try and make friends with whoever was going to be kicking on to the next bar or wherever. What do you think then what was the lowest point of your journey? How long did this go on for?
Boy, it was 34 years of drunken debauchery. And it's a great question of, hey, where is my rock bottom? I stacked so many of my rock bottoms
Mm,
that Uh, there wasn't one catastrophic one because I stacked so many, and approaching my second failed marriage was the one that kind of pushed me into rehab. But yeah, 34 years of absolutely drunken debauchery. And I can't tell you how much time I've wasted. I mean, because I'd be in a bar from sometimes at lunchtime all the way till 10 o'clock. That's 10
mm,
hours. And that wasn't one
yeah.
day a week. That'd be 3 or 4. And that's coming back to my house. Like I have gained so much time back being sober, it's insane. And over those 34 years, I was doing the math. I've spent over $1 million on alcohol.
Mm,
$1 million. I would go to my son's college and be like, because I was the life of the party, just like you.
yeah.
And I'd be like, hey, drinks for you, shots for everybody. It'd be a $2,300 bar tab. And that's just not like, oh, that was fun for the year. No, I would do that often. Like if I didn't
Wow.
felt like I had friends at the bar similar to you, I'd be like, let's buy Jimmy and Susie and Jack over here some drinks. And then they're my best friends. So
Yeah.
I'll just take care of your dinner too. Right. I was just that
Yes.
guy.
I was the same. And it was almost like I think I don't know whether I was even conscious to the fact that I just wanted the party to keep going. So I
I
would
was
do whatever
buying
I needed to.
friendships.
Yeah. Was drugs ever a part of your story?
No,
No. Because that
just
was what got
alcohol.
really expensive for me. I started buying people bags of cocaine to try and keep them to stick around for the party to keep going.
Yeah.
That
Stick
was
around for the part.
really
I got it. Let me take care
yeah.
of this.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you just mentioned then that your rock bottom, I mean, stacking them, I really relate to that as well. That then led you into rehab. Was that the turning point for you onto the next chapter of sobriety?
For sure. Yep. I went
Okay.
to a 10-day and they call it aversion therapy where they actually induce vomiting with alcohol. It was
Oh my.
very
And you have to tell me
intense.
about this. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So it's 10 days and they call it aversion therapy. It's kind of like touching a stove after a while. You're like, I'm not going to do that because it hurts. Um,
Yeah.
so they imagine a doctor's office when you'd go in and just go get your checkup, right? And they got all the little, tongue sticks and all the stuff. Well, that would be a whole bar, full bar. And there would be a chair, a silver bowl in front of you, and a big mirror. And we used to call them the bartenders that are nurses that would sit next to you. And if you have kids or anybody has kids, Epicac induces vomiting. It just makes you feel super nauseous. And it's like if your kids got poisoned, you would give it to them and they'd induce vomiting. Well, for me, it takes about 6 minutes for that to kick in. And you're like feeling like the worst hangover you've ever had in the morning. And then they give you a nice little glass of warm salt water and then the lovely bartender nurse would give you a shot of, my first one was vodka. Put it in your mouth, swish it around, spit it out. Second one would be Bailey's. Put it in your mouth, swish it around, spit it out. By the third one, which would be, I don't know, Jameson, put it in your mouth, spit it out. You're just violently throwing up. They get you to 18 shots of everything from beer, wine, Jameson, Bailey's, Black Velvet, you name it. They're putting it in your mouth. And you feel absolutely horrible. And this is only like a 30-minute process. And then they take you back to your room and they give you those cute little pink buckets that you see in hospitals. And I'll never forget, there was a clock above my bed and this pink bucket, and they come check on you every 10 minutes, make sure you're good and still breathing. And you're just violently getting this stuff out of your system. And in about an hour and a half, you're like, I'm finally turning the corner. I think I'm feeling better. The nurse comes on rolling in with a 16-ounce glass of Epicac and some warm salt water. And boy, it just keeps you going for another hour and a half. And you are absolutely gassed after about 3.5 hours of throwing up. And then there's probably a class going, well, there were classes going on, group classes and sessions, and it was all evolved around the 4 agreements. And you would go do that. You would go get a cracker to barely put in your mouth because you felt so bad and sipping on water. And then bed at 10, up the next morning, and then they sedate you. They try to get into your subconscious. So you sit in this big comfy chair. There's anesthesiologist, a nurse, your therapist, and then one other person in there. Not sure what they were in there for. Whatever. And they get you sedated for about 10 minutes and get into your subconscious. And they just ask you random questions, like 22 questions of like, hey, what influenced you on drinking? Where was your popular place? When was your first drink? And they just ask you these random questions. And you feel euphoric when you come out of that anesthesia. And they put you in a room for 15 minutes, get something to drink, and then you go see your therapist for 3 hours and review all your questions that you're like, I said, what? There'd be random names. And I'd be like, I don't know that person, but weird. And then the next day, you'd go do your Duffy again. And on the 5th day that I was going into violently puke, my body knew what was coming. On the 5th day, I threw up in the trash can before I even went into the room.
Gosh.
It was unbelievably intense, and it's worked very, very well. To this day, I can still go be at bars and events and games and do all that stuff, but every blue moon, they all get a whiff of like a shot going by of tequila or Fireball. My mouth will water to this day, almost 9 years later. My aversion is so high.
Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea that that was an avenue for sobriety. I just didn't even, I've never heard of that before. It sounds incredibly uncomfortable, but rather effective.
You know what's funny? I don't have silver bowls in my house today. Not one silver bowl, because it's a trigger for me, because that's what I had to throw up in 5 times. And before you went into the Duffy room, you had to get really hydrated. And they had blue Gatorade, blue Powerade. I have nothing blue in my house.
Understand why.
Yeah.
So you're in there for 10 days, and throughout that time, you're also doing therapy. That's correct?
Mm-hmm.
What happens after that? Do they sort of just pack your bags and send you on your way? Is there a recommendation to do some sort of follow-up?
They have a follow-up that you could come back in 4 months and do 1 Duffy day, which I was like, I feel so good. I'm good.
Thanks.
And they recommend AA. I never went to AA. And again, my aversion was so high. But on the 3rd day, I went into rehab for everyone else. I went in to save my marriage. I went into my 2nd failed marriage. I went in there for my kids. I went in there for my friends. I went in there for my boss. I went in there for everybody else but this guy. And something happened on that 3rd day. I get chills talking about. Somebody touched me on the shoulder and was like, hey, unless you're right, nothing will be right. You need to be right before you can worry about anything else in life. And that really hit me.
So it was almost like in that moment, you knew that it had to be for you.
Yep. At that moment, it was all about me. Unless I'm right, my family won't be right. I won't be right. If I'm not right, nothing will be right.
It's the same, I think, principle in 12-step. I'm part of 12-step community. And, I was told very early on that you need to put your recovery first above everything else, because if you don't, you will lose everything else anyway. If you're putting it above your marriage or you're putting it above your children, or if you don't, sorry, and then you're going to lose that anyway. So you may as well just make sure that whatever you need to do to stay sober is the number one priority, whatever that is for you, so that everything else in your life can actually flourish and grow. And it's so interesting, isn't it? And yet our head will tell us that we have to put all of those other people before us.
Yeah.
to save it.
And I was a people pleaser.
Oh, yes. Yeah. How did you work with the people pleasing? Because I know for me, that's something that's taken a little while to fall away.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever really falls away once it's in your blood that you always like want to make sure everybody's okay. My circle was so big when I was drinking. I mean, I could
Mm,
text somebody in 10 minutes and have 26 people in my house and have a raging party going on
mm, mm.
because I was that just like you. I was the life of the party. And today my circle is so small and so intimate. Anything goes. We can talk about anything, we can laugh, we can cry, and my circle was my saving grace of feelings. Like I think the biggest thing for sobriety, like quitting drinking's hard, don't get me wrong. But the hardest thing for me was sitting in my dirty diaper of feeling my feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to deal with like I didn't realize all the stuff I was pushing down, and it was okay to cry. It was okay to be sad. It was okay to be happy. And what the meaning of real joy is and being present is so freeing. I couldn't imagine going back.
I completely agree. Once you experience how good it is on the other side, there's, I often hear people say like, you couldn't pay me to go back to drinking now. And yet at the time, I couldn't even get 2 days of sobriety. It's so
Right?
crazy to think that we can have that profound shift where it's not like you get sober and you wish that you could drink again or that you're white knuckling it through life. It's just, for me anyway, like the desire was removed, which
Hmm.
because nobody wants to live a life where they're having to hold on so tightly to just not drink one day at a time. Like that just to me sounds like hell, like you want the freedom. That's what's on offer here. But was it I mean, I'm curious on the friendship point. Did you find that, obviously the big circle, the drinking buddies would have fallen away, but what about like was it your existing friends that really stepped up and that you got closer to, or have you formed a new circle?
They were always a couple in my circle that I could go drink with and party with. They've always been there and they were with me in my drinking days, but they've
Mm.
also been there number one people in my sobriety and my health and my wealth and my kids and number one supporter when I quit. But my circle has shifted. There's been a couple people that have came in because I believe people that come into your life have seasons. I really
Mm,
believe that. There's people
mm,
that come into your life for a reason and they come into your life for seasons
mm.
and it's to teach you something and for you to teach them. And it's okay. Like this big circle I had, I'm still friends with some of those people, but I'll see them once a year. And I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. And they're okay with that. And the ripple effect we have when we do get sober is shockingly powerful of
Mm.
the silent influence we have. You have, I have on people that I know there's people in your life that have like, I have quit drinking because I've seen you do it. And
Yeah.
it warms your heart that
Mm.
you silently impact these. There's people that probably came up to you and said that you're like, oh, I had that impact. I didn't even realize that. And that's what warms our heart. That's why we do these so we can go make an impact on people and make a difference.
Yeah.
And that silent impact of some of those people out there. I had a buddy reach out to me and I barely talk to him anymore. He's like, hey, I haven't drank in 2 years. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. And he's like, it's because of you. I'm like, well, that
Wow.
makes me feel good. He's like, I read your book and I follow you on Instagram. And boy, if you could do it, I definitely could do it. And everything's been
Yeah.
better. My relationship's been a lot better. My work's better. And that just warms your heart when you hear stories like that.
So is that what inspired you to write your book, Wild Ride to Sobriety?
1,000% is, I think that was my new purpose
Mm.
getting sober is like my whole story is it's naked. I'm naked in this whole thing and it's all out there from my kids to emotions to laughing to crying to things that I did on my journey to be better, all the bad things that I did and nothing good came out of drinking. So if my book could make a difference on someone to be a better mom, a better friend, a better dad, a better business owner, just a better person to be better every day, that's the whole reason for it.
Hmm. Well, people should definitely go check out the book. But can you share a couple of those things with us now? What are some of the tools that you've implemented? I mean, you kind of alluded to habit stacking earlier in our conversation. Like, what are these things that you really, once you left that aversion therapy treatment center to start this journey? It's been almost 9 years. Like, what have been the things that have really steadied you as creating this foundation, this rock solid recovery?
Journaling was a big thing for me. Gratitude. My day starts with
Yeah,
gratitude
yeah,
every day, was the biggest thing. And whatever that gratitude is for you, if you're not a big journal person, and when you're not looking at your phone for the first 30 seconds or 30 minutes or 10 or whatever you start with, when your eyes wake up, start your say 2 or 3 things of gratitude, whatever it is for you. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful I got to sleep in. I'm grateful. Oh my gosh, smell the coffee that my husband's making for me. The smallest things be grateful for because it will set the tone for your day.
Mm,
Um, that was a big thing for me. And the other is I go outside and I take a couple deep breaths, just get oxygenated. And
mhm,
again, I didn't do all these all at once. I stacked all my little baby habits. And when you're getting ready, look in the mirror and be like, it's on me. It's on me
mm,
to set the tone for the day. It's on me to have a good attitude. It's on me to make today great. And say these affirmations to yourself. We don't say it to, we hear all this noise because as soon as we look at our phone, we're judging. We get these dopamine hits and then we're getting judged by all these other people, right? Judge yourself. And say affirmations. I am amazing. I am great. I am loved. I am appreciated because we don't hear that enough from ourselves. And
and
it
I think
really gets your mindset right.
absolutely, especially if you're somebody who's been using alcohol as a way to cope with life for a number of years, sometimes decades, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. And I think we hear these words like, go and do the inner work and work on yourself and self love. But it's like, but what does that mean? What are the action steps that I can actually take to start to do that? And you've touched on it beautifully. I think gratitude, which is rewiring your neural pathways, that the practice of getting outside and grounding in nature and actually just taking some deep breaths. I became a breathwork facilitator in my sobriety journey, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. I had no idea that we're all walking around not breathing correctly. like
Yeah,
because
we're such shallow breathers, right?
yes. Yep. Up there in the chest, high shoulders, anxious, holding on to everything. No, breathe down into your belly, low and slow, diaphragmatic breathing. Like that's just one of the first things I do when I'm working with clients is I teach them heart coherence breathing, which is just a simple in through the nose for 5, out through the nose for 5. Circular breathing, no pause at the top or bottom. You do that for 5 minutes, 3 times a day. It's one of the most potent breathwork practices, and it's so simple. And what I love about these tools is you don't have to pay for any of those. Like you've got
Mm-mm.
access to all of that within. It's just about learning and then you can access them at any time.
And then probably the third and final one for me is people have these goals, right? Like, especially New Year's. I'm going to lose 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever that number is. And the first weekend, they go to the gym, they eat better, maybe they're not drinking, and they get to Friday and they weigh themselves and they see a half a pound. And they're so disappointed and so sad and be like, screw it, I'm not doing this. Take those goals and get them real small. Today, I'm not drinking.
Mm,
This week, I'm going to lose 1 pound or a half a pound. Stack baby wins. We
mm,
set these goals that are so attainable, but when we don't have these instant win gratifications, we get sad and we quit. So
yeah.
take your goals and get them really finite to where I'm going to lose a half a pound. That's a win on a Friday
Mm,
instead of I didn't hit 30.
mm.
Condense your goals. I'm not going to drink today. That's a win.
I think that's such solid advice just to be able to chunk it down so that you do have those little micro affirmations along the way because it can. I know for many, even for myself, the idea if you told me on that first day when I was going to rehab that I was never going to drink again, I wasn't ready to my brain couldn't how could you possibly take away this thing that has been my best friend for the last 2 decades? This has been the
Hmm.
solution to my problems. It's been my comfort. Like you can't take that away from me forever. It would feel like I was losing a part of me. But over time, like really chunking it down, as you said, sometimes it's just a day at a time. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's that turns into a
Then you
month.
look back and it's 8 years.
And then it's 8 years, exactly right, which is just incredible. Can I ask, I've got a lot of listeners who are parents, and something that I know you talk to is the beautiful relationship that you have with your children today, but I'm sure that there would have been some sort of healing that had to happen there. Could you talk to that a little bit, perhaps giving people a little bit of hope who might be in their early days, who've still got quite fractured relationships with their children? What did you do? What do you think was the key to repairing and healing that?
Biggest thing for me was my kids, all kids, they catch more than we teach. I
Mm,
caught my kids how to drink. I also caught my kids how a good dad should be. So I didn't go back and apologize to my kids. I've always believed I'm going to set the example. Actions louder than words. And my kids saw me lose 85 pounds. They saw me not drink for one day at a time. And they saw this transformation of their dad being present. So I did it by action. And my
Mm,
relationship with them is phenomenal. We can laugh together, cry together. We can share feelings because now I know what those are
mm,
after 34 years of just drowning them.
mm,
And just being present is such a game changer. But whatever you are doing, it's kind of like your five friends thing, right? Show me your five friends, I'll show you your future. If they're
mhm,
smokers, drinkers, partiers, you know, not the best people in the world, you're probably going to be like one of them.
mhm.
So it's the product of your environment is huge. And I just totally changed that environment in my household, in my family, and somebody had to break that generational chain, and it was this guy.
Yes. I love that. And I think just to add on everything that you've said and time, because if you think about, let's use your story as an example, 34 years of drinking. It's all your children had ever known. To expect that everything's going to be fully healed in 6 months is just unrealistic. I think for many family members, this isn't even just children, it might be parents, it might be loved ones. What they're looking for is evidence, and that can only be proven time over action, as you said, over time. So give it time, stay consistent, and trust that it will repair, it will heal, but you've got to give it that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I have absolutely loved this conversation today. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. We do have a closing question for all of my guests that I'm going to ask you now. And I feel like we've touched on a few elements, so you can take it anywhere, really. Tell me right now, today, what are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live your life happy, authentic, and free?
No phone. 30
No
minutes has
phone?
been a absolute. I did not realize how big a game changer that was.
Yep.
Gratitude. Whether you write it on a sticky note, you say it in your head with your little prayers, is a non-negotiable for me.
Mm,
And that was never a thing. And that was probably 5 years ago. That was even, 3 years into being sober, of like how important that was to me in my journey. Because again, I don't think the healing ever ends. And
mm,
three, your health.
mm,
If you don't have your health, you have nothing. Your
mhm.
health is your new wealth. And we're seeing that across the world.
Yeah.
And this sober curious movement that's going on. I'm not sure what it's like on that side
Oh,
of the
yeah.
pond, but over
It's
here
huge.
it is insanely becoming popular. Like drinking has
Mm.
become like what smoking was, right? Smoking
Yeah.
used to be the biggest thing over here. And now it's like you see a smoker, you're like, whoa, that's weird. What is that? Right? And that movement is happening in sobriety for sure, which is awesome to see.
It's so cool to see, isn't it? I even feel like, I came in 6 years ago, and even then I didn't feel like I could see a lot of people with my story or people that I could really relate to that much. And then I feel like over the last particularly 3, 4 years, that sober curious movement has just exploded. There's so many amazing quick lit, including your book. So yeah, it's fantastic to see. And I think there is a whole generation now. I mean, I'm reading articles all the time about how alcohol sales are at their all-time low,
All
and
time low, yep.
yeah, it's crazy, but it's also incredibly heartwarming to see that people are choosing a life of presence and connection over disconnection and numbing. So I
Yep.
feel very lucky to be
1,000%.
part of the ride. And yeah, I'm glad that you're here. And thank you so much again for sharing your journey. If people want to grab the book, track you down, where can they go?
Amazon, you can get the book. You can look it up under my name, Ian C, or Wild Ride to Sobriety. All the social media, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You just look up my name and you'll see a happy, positive, big energy guy there.
We love that. Well, I'll make sure that I link those in the episode show notes below. We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one needs suffer in silence. So thank you so, so much for taking the time to join us here today.
Thank you so much and keep making a difference. You're crushing it, girl.
Thank you, Ian. Bye.
Bye.